But what about people? What if people miss the beginning?
Yeah. Should we do our
Oh yeah, right.
We don't have a moderator, so it's going to be awkward. We had an idea. You guys want to hear our idea? Amy is going to come up with a trivia question from My Little Pony.
Oh my gosh.
And whoever gets it right is going to sit in that chair for the panel. She didn't know that she was going to come up with a trivia question.
I can only think of an easy one.
No, it has to be hard. It has to be these are experts.
I know they're experts. I'm not saying they're not. I'm saying that I was just put on the spot to come up
But
with
you have time because we're early. Don't worry.
I have 5
Take
minutes.
your time. Everybody watch Amy while she thinks.
Early titles.
I don't know if they'd know my early times. Wait. Sorry.
What key?
Know that? Yeah, you could.
We have 4 minutes to think.
Okay, does anybody know what song I based the Smile song off of?
That's a great question. Hands, please. Don't shout it out. Raise your hands. Even though we can't see anything.
See, this
It's not the same melody, it's just the same vibe.
Anyone?
So in the
Over here?
script it says it should be like
Right here in the white.
No.
Stand one up.
Where?
What's
In the
what?
where I'm pointing.
With the,
Yeah.
No. Though I can give a hint off of that. There is a word in that title that is in the title of the song I based it off of. Yes.
It's R.
No. But that's part of Pinkie Pie. Pinkie Pride.
Come on, you guys. This is for a coveted seat right there.
Yes, you. Yes!
Hey!
Walking on Sunshine.
Come on down.
Bring that guy up here. It's going to be so awkward for you sitting here for an hour.
Yeah. Especially when we say, what was your episode about?
Do you guys know what we're doing in this panel? Do you know who we are? We're writers.
We're writers on the show and story editors on the
We
show.
need to introduce ourselves.
Yeah.
Let's introduce ourselves.
I'm Amy Keating Rogers. And I wrote on seasons 1, 2, 4, and 5.
Happened season 3.
I did not write on season 3. What happened? Well, do you want my honest answer or do you want... I wasn't asked to write on season 3. I know, it's a sad answer.
There's going to be a lot of
It's a
that.
panel of tears.
But instead, I was story editor of Care Bears, so it all worked out just fine.
He's here. Can we get his mic?
What's your name? Testing? All right.
We have a new moderator.
I'm Shakespeare, please, and now I guess I'm going to be on 4 panels this convention. Where were you last night? I didn't see you at the bar trial.
We got stuck in DC for too long. We didn't get here till like 9 something.
All right, well, I guess I'll have to buy you a drink tonight then.
Fair enough.
Okay, I am Nick Confalone. I'm a writer on the show. I started season 5 and wrote and am still writing up through now. And I've been story editing and running Equestria Girls for the last 2 years. Awesome.
And I'm M.A. Larson. I wrote on seasons 1, 2, 3, 5, and 7.
And did you story edit any of them? Story edit?
And I story edited part of season 5, but you probably know me best for my work on The Adventures of Chuck and Friends. Yes, all of those fine titles. So what we're going to do here is the 3 of us we picked one of our scripts each, and we're going to show you some things about how they went from premise to episode.
This is the behind the scenes that has ever been seen.
Super behind the scenes, yes. Nick's going to go first.
Yeah.
It's 10. It's 10 o'clock.
Oh, let's go, 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 go,
Your
go.
clock's ticking.
Start it up.
It's going.
Guys, I'm going to talk to you about Party Poot. But the story, as I put this together, I realized it's actually sort of the story of myself and my journey of tears, of learning how to write on the show. Because before this, I had never written on My Little Pony. Up until that point, I had done a lot of boys' action stuff, and that's where I met Mitch, actually, like over where we worked together on Kick Butowski, and we had done a couple of things before that. But I came into this thinking that I knew what I was doing, but writing Party Boot was like having my head held underwater for 3 months straight, and it was very difficult. So here's how things go from start to finish. Step 1 is the Story Summit, where you pitch that poop. So I was invited to the Story Summit. It's very exciting, and what that is, for those of you who don't know, it's a bunch of writers sitting around pitching ideas. There we are. You can see there's Mitch in the middle. Your hair is really darkened since then.
Haber has not aged well.
There we all are. So here's my actual notes from that meeting. You know, you bring in a bunch of, they're called log lines. It's like 1 or 2 sentences. And so at some point, I was like, hey guys, what about, it's sort of like 7 years in Equestria. Pinkie Pie loses her mojo. She goes on a journey of self-discovery across Equestria, hiking, eating berries that make her trip her face off, or maybe she meets a spirit guide, grows a beard, etc. etc. An episode. That's what episodes are like. And to my surprise, based off of that nothingness, boom, logline approved. So now I just have to come up with a story and write and figure out how to. Okay, luckily step 2 is you don't just jump right into a script, you write a premise. And a premise is a 1-page or so document, and Mitch kind of helped break the story with me a little bit. It's sort of the 30,000-foot view. I'm not going to read it word for word, but this is word for word of kind of what it was. So basically, the story was that we came up with, there's a party that needs planning. It was going to be a Cutie Mark anniversary party, and everyone assumes Pinkie Pie will plan this party naturally, but oh no, she doesn't have any ideas. She's lost her inspiration. No matter what she does, she can't think of anything. So she decides to go on a vision quest all across Equestria. And meanwhile, while she's gone, her friends sort of had this oversimplified conception of who Pinkie Pie was. They try to figure out how to plan a party without her, and they all kind of imitate her and try to channel Pinkie Pie, and it fails disastrously, and they ultimately find her party cave. So that was there since the very beginning. Meanwhile, Pinkie's vision quest culminates in a journey atop a mountain where she meets a party planning guru who was maybe going to be cheese sandwich, it said. And so you may be wondering, the big question of the hour, where are the yaks? Where are the yaks? They came next in the story-breaking session, which took place in a room over at Hasbro called the Pound Puppies Room. These are our emails. I thought the Pound Puppies Room really sounded adorable. I said, you guys have the best conference room names I've ever heard. Mitch wrote back, wait until you see the Pound Puppies Room. It's the most depressing place on earth. And I said, how depressing could it be? And the answer is really, really depressing. Why is it so depressing? And so it was in this room where we said, well, what kind of party is this? Mitch was the story editor at the time and put the smackdown on it and said, it can't be a Cutie Mark party. We're doing something else with a Cutie Mark party, or that's a stupid idea. I don't remember what it was. But so we said, well, she's a princess now, so maybe it's something international relations. Foreign horses could be coming. What's a foreign horse? Is a yak a foreign horse? I think Mitch might have said, they could be from Yakistan. And I said, that's stupid. It's Yakistan. And then, boom, that's how the yaks came into the show. So after that comes the outline, where you outline that poop. And an outline is kind of intimidating because you have to flesh out every moment of the story. But Mitch was there to offer a few suggestions here and there, just like light little nudges. Oh my God, I have this idea, what do you do? Again, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but there's a few parts that are kind of interesting. One of them you can see, the original idea was that the yaks didn't actually talk, and they were going to just have yak sounds, and Fluttershy would translate for them, so they kind of went, or however yaks sound. Yeah. And then the Act 1, the main story opened with Pinkie Pie singing a party inspiration song where she would go all over town trying to find inspiration, except jumping ahead, they gave the note, Season 2, in place of a party inspiration song, could we show the other ponies trying and failing to impress the yaks? There's too much saying how bad it's going, and it would be really funny to see. Okay, we'll try that. Later in the outline, it's Pinkie Pie's adventure. She gallops through the jungle. There's spears flying at her from all directions. I was just trying to find something to impress the yak. She calls back to an angry tribe of lemurs. She skids to a stop. They're closing in. They stop. One of them points out, behold, an ancient statue of a pony who looks just like Pinkie Pie, for she is their god. Caution that the ancient...
has wings, what a surprise.
Caution that the Pinkie Pie statue is not their god and that they are clearly not worshipping it. We avoid religious elements in children's programming. All right, well, maybe my next idea. Pinkie Pie's been painted white for the lemur welcoming ceremony. We have tribal drumming that gets more intense in the visual tribe. The visual style becomes surreal. A cave painting like lemur shaman shows a cave painting Pinkie Pie a vision of her future self. Caution that the lemur tribe, tribal drumming, and cave painting, Pinkie Pie's painting, and shaman do not resemble or seem to portray any real life reveal. We want to avoid the specific that we are stereotyping any group negatively. Stern, but fair.
See how this fuels creativity? All these notes?
Yeah, this is just the beginning. And then, just to kind of give you a glimpse of what happened, the idea was that she eventually found her way to the top of a mountain where Cheese Sandwich was there, but I was told we couldn't get the voice of Weird Al to do it again, so he had taken a vow of silence. That's called writing. It's clever. And she met a party planning guru named Lampshade, who was just like partying all the time. And he said, "Are you here to replace me?" And she went, "What?" And he said, "I'm out of here." And then just left her there. And now you have to stay on top of the mountain, Pinkie Pie. And she had failed. And they were like, approved with all those notes. So on to the first draft. It opened totally differently. It opened up with Twilight and Spike organizing books, and they were totally caught off guard by the yaks arriving early. And Pinkie Pie, remember this? And Pinkie Pie, Twilight, it was sort of more focused on her, being like, "Oh my gosh, it's so good to meet you. The yaks aren't welcome. Oh, it's a misunderstanding. Oh, ponies don't like yaks. Yaks burn equestrian to the ground." That's pretty intense. What page are we on again? Page 2? Oh, God, okay. Do you remember this? This got noted to death. We thought it made total sense that Pinkie Pie would do like a Werner Herzog-esque narration of her own quest. So we had her...
So my quest begins.
The journey will be fraught with peril, yet if I am entered to entertain our quest... No, they said, don't do that, that doesn't make any sense. We also kind of fell down this rabbit hole that we kind of thought was funny, where she meets this leaf that's kind of shaped like a cupcake, and so she calls it Cupcake Leaf. And then it was kind of like Wilson in Castaway, the volleyball, where Cupcake Leaf follows her along, and Cupcake Leaf, let's go, this will be my companion, and its name shall be Cupcake Leaf. And off they go, and then later she's like, "Cupcake Leaf, this is it, we're going up to the top of the mountain." And then she says, "Cupcake Leaf, I really love you, I just want to tell you, no." And then, no, it's so sad, because when she fails, Cupcake Leaf dies, and she goes, "Cupcake Leaf, no, Cupcake Leaf!" So there were 3 groups of notes. They come from the Hub, and they come from Discovery Family, and they come from DHX. I said, what a fresh, fun voice from Nick. There's some really cool moments in this episode. Woohoo! Hasbro Studios were still super psyched about meeting a brand new race, but there's some finessing we need to do. All right. DHX, we can appreciate that this is Nick's first stab on the show and that he's still getting used to the tone and characters' voices, but we have some major concerns.
By the way, DHX always has major concern.
So on to the second draft, where you fix all those problems. And so the way we decided to fix them, they thought the opening was a little confusing. Why didn't Twilight know about the yaks coming? Of course she would know. So we added in a whole lot of complicated stuff to explain it, you know. Oh, who are these guys? The yaks? Well, they're not welcome here. Oh, there was a calendar misunderstanding. Ponies use calendars? Yaks hate calendars, smash. That'll explain it. And then they wanted to clarify Pinkie Pie's motivation. So we went through and added a whole long speech and a whole thing where Spike said, "You know what the problem is? Nobody knows anything about yaks." Then Pinkie Pie got this idea, that's about to change, but it was pretty complicated. And then we also wanted to make her journey pay off in the end somehow, so we added a whole lot of complicated stuff to that too. If you remember the Yeti that she meets, it used to be that we cut to her with the Yeti and she's braiding his hair, and then she goes, "Oh no, he didn't, girlfriend, you gotta stand up for yourself, don't let him treat you like that." And it didn't quite work either, it wasn't quite on voice. And then the last thing, this could be a fun game. Who can spot the first time Pony Writer mistake here? She's on the horses. They're racing towards Dead Pony's Ravine, and you can read, it's snoring sounds from Cherry's Jubilee. Pinkie Pie reaches for the reins, fumbles them, and they drop. The horses gallop faster. The horses can think and talk in this show, but I guess I forgot. And so they just went right over the side because they have no idea what they're doing. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 pages of notes, and at the end they said, thanks. So step 7, the polish. You know, the polish, the step where all you gotta do is just fix the last little things that are wrong with your otherwise perfect script that by now has been just written to perfection. So, I didn't know what to do. I was like, they should have fired me a long time ago. I don't know what we're gonna do. I wrote an email to Mitch that said, I think we have to start over. Addressing their notes on the script has turned it into an unfunny, unclear piece of garbage. What if we looked at removing all the things that caused their notes in the first place? And Mitch said, I agree completely. What if we got on the phone, hammered out a simple beat sheet, we could be in business. This got too overcomplexified trying to address everything. So we jumped on the phone, we talked it all out, and this may start to sound more like the episode. We came up with 5 points. This is all from an email. Pinkie Pie's goal needs to be concrete. Let's try to make Ponyville feel like Yak-Yakistan. And then number 2, the vision quest is never going to work as we conceived it. So what if we made it not existential? Instead, she's trying to get to Yak-Yakistan and find out what they want for a party. While she's gone, forget that B story about trying to really understand Pinkie Pie. It's just going to be jokes aplenty. Ponies and Spike trying to cheer them up, entertain them, install. And alas, she doesn't make it to Yak-Yakistan, but in failing, her friends discover the Pinkie Pie party planning cave, which they cheer her up. Those 2 stories come together, which gives her the big idea that we shouldn't be trying to make Equestria feel like they're home. We should be trying to make them feel at home in Equestria. And I vividly remember Mitch saying, if you make it sound like it flips it around, it sounds true. So that'll be a good friendship lesson. We were desperate. And so 24 hours later, Party Pooped, episode 501. It was pretty much exactly what aired. Except for one thing, and by this point I was just completely unprepared to push back on anything. I was just amazed that they said, we like it. And by the way, they meant we like it, here's another 12 pages of notes, but they were like very specific line changes and things like that. So I was like overjoyed. But I just wanted to point out, there was one scene that I agreed, okay, let's just cut it, but in hindsight, I wish we hadn't, because I think it did an important job in the script, which is, you know, there's 2 kinds of stakes. There's the actual stakes, the physical stakes, which is burning Equestria to the ground, but there's emotional stakes too, and I didn't really prepare a cohesive argument for why we should keep this scene, but the very first scene, after the Yaks arrive and they trash everything, after the theme song, it originally opened up with a soft scene with Twilight and 3 Yaks walking through that was some other joke, forget about that. But it opened with this scene where Twilight says, don't worry about the mess back there, we'll get it all cleaned up, I'm just glad you arrived safely. And Prince Rutherford said, if things not perfect, Yaks get mad. Yaks always get mad when things not perfect. She said, I know Yaks have short tempers, but that's not gonna stop us from becoming friends. And she leads him to a balcony overlooking Ponyville, and the Yaks are taken aback by the beautiful view. Yaks have no friends. Yaks don't know why. Twilight says it could be any number of reasons, really, not necessarily because you smash everything when you get mad. Either way, I promise that by tomorrow morning, ponies and Yaks will be best friends. For 1,000 moons? She nods. Now, I know you've never left Yak-Yakistan, so we planned a whole day filled with things to remind you of home. Does that sound good? Pony nice. Yaks like nice pony. And Twilight's a little embarrassed, and she says, enjoy the view. I'm gonna round up the welcoming committee, and we're gonna get to it. And I wish we kept that, because I do think it would have been really nice to care about why the Yaks need friends and why it matters if they have friends or not. But by that point, I was just so relieved that I wasn't fired that I didn't say anything about it at all. So I shared it with you guys, and I hope you enjoyed hearing the story of Party Poop and my journey of sadness.
Now we're going to switch the dongle.
Okay, mine is way less fancy and PowerPointy and like that stuff. But I'm talking about the main attraction. Okay. And I started, so I had just finished writing, I think, the second draft of the Cutie Mark.
You guys start the clock again?
Crusaders of the Lost Mark. And then I got this, hold on, not that one. So I got this email from Megan. It said, awesome job on the musical. Lyrics are terrific. I'm going to forward this to Melinda, who I don't know who that is. Are you crazy busy at the moment? I'm short a writer and might have one more script if you're available. And I wrote back, if you read from the bottom, I said, I'm not crazy busy. I actually cut that one. And she says, oh, this is the episode that's going to star Lena Hall, who won the Tony for Hedwig and the Angry Inch. And my first response was, okay, no pressure. You know, just a normal little response. Then I said, I got more excited. I said, and I apologized to people with children. I said, that's fucking awesome! I wanted to be the one to write it for her. And then I was still trying to process this. And I'm like, am I writing lyrics for her? So basically it went from, yeah, I'm available, my head exploded. And then I was like, I began to shake a bit. So Megan actually originally wrote the premise for this. And so it was called Going Gaga. Because as you may know, it was based on Lady Gaga. But her name at that point was called Duchess Frivolity. And then her given name was Daisy Whimsical. And we pretty much knew that that name was not going to stick. And they were going to have a concert called Ponchella at Sweet Apple Acres. And Applejack was going to be in charge of it, and because it was at Sweet Apple Acres, she was going to be in charge of, like, not just running everything, but dealing with the talent. And then future Rah Rah shows up, and she has all of these. She has this huge entourage with her in the premise, and she still has her manager, but he's kind of put upon and having a rough time because the entourage are asking for all these things and just really kissing Duchess Frivolity's butt over this whole thing. And in the end, it's Applejack that brings it back around, and then Duchess offers Applejack a job and says, hey, you want to be my manager? So that's how the premise was, and that originally got approved. So then we had our story meeting, and we hashed out all the details. I'm trying to see. Okay, so originally the teaser was them like rattling off all these band names that were pony puns, and even Granny Smith knew them. But then there's this, but the big headliner got announced, bigger than Sapphire Shores. And then we had something about that Granny Smith knows this like fancy dance the kids are doing now. And she's like, youth is wasted on the wrong fillies, because Applejack doesn't know what's going on and she's not hip. So it was this big setup teaser about the concert, which still happens, but very differently. And we were trying to tie in one of the books that Jillian wrote that had all of these pony names, pony band names in there. And these are my notes, which you can see are super detailed.
Can I just point out that every good act break should end with what?
Yeah.
Which I noticed that.
So yeah, Applejack at the end of Act 1, what? So yes. And then she comes back on what? And continues because she's seen Gaga and she's like, what the heck? And then at the end of Act 2, which, I think this is also a good way to end any act, Applejack is sad. So, AJ's sad. It's your dark, it's either your oh shit moment or it's like, oh shit. I knew I was going to have songs, and I don't know if you can see there, but it's like being true to yourself, being true to your vision, being true to you, be yourself. So, and we knew that her original song was supposed to be really, over the top, and you couldn't understand the lyrics and all auto-tuned, and then it's stripped down, because I don't know if you've ever seen Lady Gaga when she's just sitting at a piano, and she's amazing. And that was all of Megan's that's what inspired the whole story. So those are my meeting notes. But then I knew I needed a different name for Countess Coloratura, well, the future Countess Coloratura. So these are just my notes on, can you see them? I'm blowing this up, hold on. Woo! So I'm like, this is me just spitballing on my own. It says, truly, Amina, I don't know if Amina means truly, or Aminia, and then I was going into music things, aria, rhapsody, rococo, duchess, countess, contessa, baroness, and then last line, contessa, coloratura, rah-rah. So that was just me trying to find this. But then I had to send that to Megan and tell her about why I wanted to name this. Again, I'm blowing it up. Hold on. Okay, hold on. So, okay.
Zoom in, enhance.
Okay. So it says, hey Megan, I've been thinking about Lena's character name. What if the name Coloratura and her stage name is Countess Coloratura or Countessa? What I like about this is that coloratura actually means coloring in Italian. So she could use cool colors and her cute remark could be colorful musical notes. Now, I know Lena is not a coloratura soprano, which is like really, I don't know if you guys know this, but it's a really high voice. But I was reading up on the term, and it also means ornamentation. Since this character is going over the top with her ornamentation, I thought this is fitting. I was thinking that when she and Applejack were kids, AJ could think that this name is over the top, and this is stuff you know. And she could give her the nickname Rah-Rah, Coloratura. When her friends tell her Countess Coloratura is headlining, AJ could say, I don't know anything about any Countess, but I had a friend named Coloratura when I was just a filly. And she called her Rah-Rah because Coloratura was just too fancy. AJ could note that she did have an amazing, colorful, pure voice she's ever heard. She knew she was destined for great things. Then she hears the horrible auto-tune, it's not the same. She can't even hear her friend's voice. And then there's all the crap on stage, all the ornamentation and distractions. Later when Rah-Rah asks AJ's advice, this is important, on all the crazy stuff, AJ said that she doesn't know about all that highfalutin stuff. She doesn't need all that junk or that silly name. After all, Rah-Rah's not really a countess. For AJ, it comes back to Coloratura's voice, the colors and purity of it. If anything, her name should be Colorapura, because that's how her voice always sounded to her, and she's never needed, and that's all she ever needed up on stage. What do you think? And Megan says, great, I love it. And I say, groovy, okay. And then also my daughter pointed out that in Bad Romance by Lady Gaga, they go rah, rah. So we thought that was cool too. So that's how that name came about. And I was very, very, very pleased with my noting of the Colorapura, and that comes into play later. So then I had to write the outline, and if I can find it, hold on. So this was the outline originally. Okay, so it's supposed to start with all of these pony pun names, and oh, look at this list. We got Cold Hay and the Who's and Maisie and Philly Joel and Britney Spears and can Applejack believe it? And Applejack's like, I don't know who any of these people are. And Apple Blue, so it's like, Apple Blue's like, what? You've never heard of Goatee Hay and Nine-Inch Tails and stuff?
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Some of these can be salvaged. We have to have an episode with Britney Spears where she shaves her mane off.
Absolutely. 30 Seconds to Mares. It's the Talking Herds. I mean, and AJ Applejack hasn't heard of any of these. And then Granny Smith comes running in. The Red Hot Philly Peppers are performing in Coachella. And I have to, okay, and just a side note, I hate the Red Hot Chili Peppers. But whatever.
Oh, you just lost the room.
Well, but the name was so funny, I put it in there. And so it's like, no, don't do that. So even Granny Smith has heard of these bands, and she's like, please, just because the shine's off the apple doesn't mean it's lost its crunch. And Granny Smith goes in to demonstrate that she keeps up with all the dances, the buck and ruckus, the hoof stomp shuffle, and the latest is the cutie boot scoot. And she starts dancing, and Applejack's like, what the hell? So That's what it was supposed to be. And then it's all the same. The big thing, again, in this version is that you have the entourage instead of just the manager. And I don't have time, so I'm not going to read all that stuff because it's basically what you know. And then you get the notes, as Nick has pointed out.
That's really fun.
They're like, and Megan responded to, okay, I'm blowing this up again. Okay, so it's like kudos on what's going to be an amazing showcase for Lena. Fingers crossed on, so we were hoping that the manager was going to be played by Neil Patrick Harris. So that, yeah, I know. I'm running out of time. Crap on a cracker. Sorry. So I had, we had, basically their note in this was, we should just have it be the manager and not all of the other ponies. The entourage, just keep it simple, which was actually a fantastic note to get. It's like, yeah, let's keep the villain, if we're gonna have a villain, let's have it just be one pony. And then it went into, I know we've been throwing around the name Ponchella for a bit, but it sounds kind of odd, and when written, looks weird, which is what your main concern is when you have something that is going to be recorded, that it looks weird. Can we come up with a different name? Don't think it needs to be a pun. And we're open to using pony puns for the band names, but the references for the bands and rappers is bumping us, especially when you have, Sapphire Shores thrown in there. So it was like, okay. But at the same time, they also said, nice job tying in one of our pony books from the show. So it was these two conflicting messages of, hey, great job with this, but can we cut this? It's like, I don't know.
Conflicting messages in notes? No.
So scene 11, Color Apura sounds a little odd to us. Is there a different way AJ could get the idea across to her friend? And I said, sure, but bummer. And again, they said, fun episode, yeah, this is my favorite. So, just a bit of logic question off the top. And at the beginning it says that they are building a stage for a concert. If Applejack and Big Mac are building a stage, how do they not know about the upcoming concert? My response was, what? Of course they know. That's what they're building it for. How drunk are they when they read these outlines? And then, as far as the band names, they didn't like them because it sounded like the Flintstones. And I said, who doesn't love the Flintstones? And where's...
Two Flintstones.
Two Flintstones. Sorry, trying to find a good... Sorry, I'm choking. So, I'm so running out of time. Okay, so now I'm going to talk, so the teaser was what? Load up, sorry, okay. So much.
I'm big
I can do that. Yay. Nice. Okay, so again, at this point, it's Applejack not knowing what the heck is going on. So this is like, I don't know if you guys are like this, but one of the hardest things I ever have to accomplish is getting that teaser done and trying to make it funny, because you only have about 3 pages for the teaser. And so I seriously, this is the first version of it, and it's talking all about these band names. And then the second version of the teaser, still, we're talking about the band names.
Do you guys know what a teaser is? It's that little piece before the main titles.
So it's still Applejack being like, I've never heard of all these bands. And then Granny Smith coming in and she's doing something called the wing-a-ding-ding. And she says, wing-a-ding-ding, wing-a-ding-ding, flap those colored feathers, give your partner a swing. And as you guys know, none of this is what happens. Okay. Other great stuff happened, and I was going to say
you guys can't see this, but we have these screens up here, and they have a countdown time over there that's 4 feet across of a number counting down.
And he's taking some of this. Yeah. Okay, okay, I'm gonna try and cut to some chases here. Okay, so one of the best notes was, okay, Pinkie, when I originally wrote this, Pinkie Pie's hair, when her frizz has been freaked, it says, Pinkie's hair uncurls and goes flat. So that's what I wrote in the first draft. But then Megan changed it to Pinkie Pie's, oh crap. I should have done a PowerPoint. In the second one, it was, it says Pinkie's hair sprawls into an afro. That's what Megan changed it to. And the reasoning, and this was logical, was that Pinkie Pie, when she's depressed, her hair goes straight, right? Fine, that's fantastic. So I was like, okay, that's a really good change. Got it. But then we get a note. I'm not going to be able to find it. I'm just going to tell you about it. So we get this note saying that Pinkie Pie's hair is an afro. And they're like, I don't know, Pinkie Pie's hair's kind of curly. How is that going to be different when she gets an afro? And so then so I read the second draft and I'm like, okay, fine. So I made it straight again. And then we get the note saying, Pinkie Pie's hair only goes straight when she's depressed. And then a note so that was from Hasbro, a note from DHX was, how about an afro? And I can't really repeat what Megan said, but she was a little annoyed. So then, in my third draft, I said that Pinkie Pie's hair became like the Bride of Frankenstein. And then they did whatever they did. Originally Sven Gallup's name was Pony Baloney, and everybody's like, that's a really obvious name that he's not a nice guy. And so then Megan said, can it be like a Svengali type name? And Svengali is this character in literature who is this guy that controls this woman named Trilby. And I was like, okay, well, what kind of name can I come up with that? And then I had this email exchange with my husband. Gosh, it's a funny email. Hold on. So he got an email from this person that says, hi folks, I looked at your actual photo. I love you a lot. We should chat. I'm a girl with only serious about mail. And my husband writes, oh my. And I write, my oh my. And he says, obviously true love, very sincere. And I said, I understand that if you must leave me. And he says, wow, that was quick. I leave for a couple hours and I'm literally out the door. Really, she means nothing to me. And I said, I just don't want you to give up on your true love. And he said, oh, in that case. And then he completely changes the subject. I think there's a Fosselman's ice cream around here. And I was like, okay. I said, yum. And then I changed the subject. Hey, I need to replace Pony Baloney. Megan wants a Svengali type name. Thoughts? And he said, Sven Pony. Galley up. And I said, Sven Gallup? And that's how that name came about.
From the divorce.
So, since I'm totally out of time, I'm going to stop there and hand it over.
You want to start the clock again? How's it going over there? Down on the end. How you doing? You having a good time? You having fun?
Oh yeah, I love it up here.
All right, I'm going to talk about Slice of Life.
Save the best for last.
That's my desktop.
We had to watch him go through 7 or 8 pictures to find the sexiest one before this. Just so you guys know the preparation he put into it.
All right, so I'm just going to give you a quick rundown on this episode. The original writer of the 100th episode was right there, Amy Keating Rogers. She did how many different ideas for this? How many different ideas did you have to do?
Oh my gosh, I had so many different ideas for this. It was called The Other Main Six, The Grand Tour of Equestria, The Princess of Stress, The Wedding in Ponyville, 100th episode premise. We began to just give up. And then 22 shorts on Equestria. So I was constantly, I'm like, I don't even know. It was
we tried to get something that they would agree to, and it just wasn't happening. And then there was one day where Amy, Megan, and I were in a room. We were trying to figure out how to do this. It was super late already, and Amy came up with this idea of doing a wedding as a framing story, because then you can include food and dresses and all the attendees, music, and all these elements elements we could pull from. And it was, all three of us were just like, there it is, that's it, we got it, that's our framing device. So then Amy went and wrote, not this, not the thing I'm showing you, something else. And they were like, meh.
Yeah.
So then I had a conversation with Amy, because I was writing The Lost Treasure of Griffinstone, which got approved, and Amy was sitting there rewriting and not getting paid. And I said, do you want to just swap and get paid? And she said, yes.
Yeah.
So that's when I took over this and started all over again, because this one was really tough because the hub was heavily involved, and they usually weren't. They were usually pretty hands-off, but they wanted to stunt cast it and get all these David Tennant and Jeff Bridges and all these big voices. None of them actually happened. And so this is Amy's original premise before she left. So this is, okay, so I even when I took it over, I didn't really know what to do, because from conception, I thought this was a terrible idea to showcase the background ponies, because you guys had made characters out of them. And for us, Lyra is not Lyra, she's background pony number 3. You know, she doesn't have any personality. You guys made them into living characters, and who am I to come along and stomp on what you created and say, you're wrong, this is Lyra. But they were like, do it.
Stomp on.
So I was sitting and I was like, what am I going to do? This is horrible. There's no way to do this that's going to be good. And then I remember it was a Saturday afternoon. I was in my office and I was like, I know what to do. Just accept that this is a fan episode and just go for it. Just go all out. And you can see here's some batshit insanity on a page. That's what it was. I was like, I'm just going to throw every single reference, pandering, everything I can possibly think of in here. And then it was fun. Then I was like, oh, I like this. Like a normal outline is 4 or 5 pages, and mine was 10 pages long for the same 22 minutes, because it was so filled with characters and references and so many things that got cut. There's a lot of stuff that got cut out.
So did you know a lot of this stuff before this, or did you have to dive in and learn a lot of this?
What I try to do is, you can see here in the second paragraph, my operating theory is to take some small thing that has been seen in the show. For example, how Bon Bon always has a different voice every time she speaks, and somehow make a character out of that. What I didn't want to do was take fan ideas and put them in the show. I wanted to try to take things out of the show from these background characters, so that's where I came up with the idea that she was undercover agent, because she keeps having different voices. So I just took little things like that and tried to spin them out into characters, because I knew if I took what you guys had done, it would not end well. And the only thing that at that point they really wanted was, there's 3 acts. They wanted to have Derpy and Dr. Hooves together, they wanted to have Lyra and Bon Bon together, and Octavia and Final Scratch together. And other than that, I can kind of do what I want. So I wanted to weave them all together through each other's stories and just have it be like batshit insanity. Just craziness. You have to watch it 3 or 4 times to get all the references. It wasn't quite as intense as I'd hoped, but I think it came out really well.
I think you accomplished that.
It was way more crazy. Oh, that's funny. So here's an outline, 500%. This is an original outline that was, this is only 3 pages, because I think I was trying to get across. Can you see it? Mm-hmm. So I had things in here like Namby-Pamby, who is referenced in Ponyville Confidential, but we never actually saw her. So enter Namby, this is when Featherweight is printing the invites. Enter Namby-Pamby, the previous editor of Featherweight's older sister. She changed the settings because Featherweight uses a sans serif font like an amateur.
How are you gonna read it? How can you read it from far?
He says she changed the date, and now every pony's expecting a wedding tonight. So that explains why they were wrong. That got changed, obviously. It's actually better that it was Derpy's fault. In my original one, Vinyl Scratch talked because I didn't know she didn't talk, so for me, she was Brad Pitt in True Romance. I don't know if you guys have seen that. Great character. You should watch True Romance anyways, because it's an amazing movie, but when you see Brad Pitt, you'll know that's what I wanted Vinyl Scratch to be. But then Hasbro's like, she doesn't talk! And I'm like, yeah, none of them talk. What do you mean she doesn't? So then, this is the one I love that they cut. So while you're flying all around, all over the place, the doctor races past Cranky, who's himself frantically running the other way, trying to get ready for the wedding. He's carrying armloads of flowers and things and hopping alongside him as Flash Sentry. And he's like, I don't understand. I wash your wagon every Saturday. I rake your lawn. Why am I not invited to the wedding? And Cranky's like, there's something about you I just don't like. And to their credit, Hasbro's like, we love this joke, but it's just too much of an inside joke, so they cut it. Then I had these characters, Dinky Doo, Truffle Shuffle, and Apple Bites, arguing about who's the best princess, and they kept popping in saying, no, Luna's the best princess. It was you guys. So here's Lyra is aghast. She says their whole friendship has been a lie, and that explains why your voice is always different. It's all been an act. So that's basically how I try to come up with these 6 characters who weren't actually characters. It was just, like I said, finding something in canon. This was a great joke that, you know, Sabrina Alberghetti, the Sibsy, the board artist, this is her joke that I thought was so hilarious. Everybody's pouring into the wedding at the end of the episode, the guests are milling about coming in, and a group of background ponies walks up, and another group of background ponies walks up, and they're identical except they're different colors, they're recolored. And they look at each other and they're like, well, this is embarrassing. It's such a good meta joke, it would have fit perfectly in the episode, but it got cut for some reason. Yeah. You could do a fan cut of this episode. I had a thing where Lyra had been kicked out of Octavia's band, and then they made up at the end in the wedding. They got together and they kind of buried the hatchet. That got cut. It was a little too complicated, but I like the idea that at the wedding, all these people who had been in conflict were now kind of coming together over love. And then this was my favorite joke of the whole episode, and it got cut, which was that in the middle of the craziness, you cut outside, and Celestia's Royal Guard and Luna's Bat Ponies are standing outside waiting, cracking each other up with Monty Python-esque impersonations of Celestia and Luna. And I got that because I worked for a really famous director in New York, and I used to hang out with his drivers all the time. He had multiple drivers, and his drivers would do this. They would like impersonate him. It was so funny. So I figured their guards would like, while they're off duty, be like making fun of the princesses. Barry Sean rolls in with a cask and is like, told you to take care of Matilda. She's supplying all the booze for the party. And then my original ending, which I'm glad changed, was an establishing shot of the venue outside as the sunset washes over Ponyville. Everything is beautiful in the magic hour. We see the main 6 standing outside watching the ceremony. And there in the orange-hued sky, we see a distant swarm of changelings bearing down. Slightly different vibe. I'm glad they cut that. This is, okay, so this is the actual outline. You can see it's 10 pages long. And it's filled with like footnotes and hyperlinks, you know, so if anybody at DHX or Hasbro click on this, it would link to the MLP wiki of who these people are. Minuet, Twinkleshine, Snooty Waiter, the Boulder is Tom. Look, Namby Pamby, it's got footnotes. The whole thing was like, you can see who all these characters are. Yeah, and then I also wanted them to add more, like put more in. The more that you can't have too many. I don't think there's anything here I was going to show you. The biggest thing to change in this whole episode was the 3rd act, but I'll show you that in a minute. So yeah, it was 10 pages long for the same 22 minutes. That's how fast it was supposed to be. This is just a document that they wanted me to make that was a compendium of all these characters.
And I mean, this shows how insane it is and how amazing it is, all the stuff you guys do, because it really is like Incidental Pony 4, Incidental Pony 5, like they're nothing.
Yeah, they're nothing. Sorry guys.
I guess the raid is starting early.
Sorry you guys.
I knew we picked you.
Okay.
I'll give him that.
The dude has excellent timing. Sorry about this, guy. I'll just read it to you. So I wanted to show you this because this is an email I got from the story editor on Cutie Mark Chronicles, and it says They understand why we had our act breaks in the middle of flashbacks, but are wondering whether we might want to cut outside the story to see the Crusaders reacting. Cleared to go to script. One note, no problem. What's that?
Oh, you got it on blink mode, that's the problem.
I'm just gonna let it blink, you guys. Oh, but it's not up there now. Can we put it up there? This is a visual gag, this next one. There we go. Okay, so here's the extent of my notes on Keating Rogers Chronicles, right? Here's my notes on Slice of Life. See them? Oh, really? Oh, it doesn't like full screen. But you can see Vince. Okay, so, look, you guys. Look at the notes. Look at them. Look at the notes. Look at them! Look how much better they're making it. Yeah, this is my favorite one. This reference to Zecora feels obtuse. I'm like, oh, well, let me fix that. No problem. I'll make it less obtuse.
You can't just call some pony the Z word.
Yeah. So, clearly we were having some miscommunications with how this was working. So I wrote a come to Jesus email to everybody. Hello everyone, apologize in advance for the novel you're about to read, but I've been going through the note. Keep in mind, this is after months and months of working with Amy and me and just slogging through quicksand, and I'd had it. Going through the notes, talking with the Hasbro guys, I noticed a common theme to some of them that I thought might be good to discuss. From a big picture perspective, the purpose of this episode is to celebrate 100 episodes of MLP, and we've chosen to do that by highlighting the background characters, etc., etc. My concept has been to pack this with as many background and secondary characters as humanly possible. It's intended to go at breakneck speed with a mix of anchor stories and quick gags, coming at you so fast and layered you have to watch twice. That's why the narrative swirls through acts the way it does and has all those little one-shots. It's not about story, it's about energy, energy, energy. So then the rest of this is like, you keep telling me to cut every single gag that's not connected to the story, we're gonna end up with just a boring regular episode. And my whole point with this email is this is not a regular episode, this needs to be crazy. And to their credit, I just looked, when they responded, they were like, oh, we didn't really get that, that makes a lot of sense. So then I still had to deal with this. But it was a lot easier because I was like, no, this needs to stay, this needs to stay, this needs to stay. And then we go to script. No, I don't want to download the new version. This is the first draft of the script. What do I got? Oh my gosh, I have less than a minute. There's so many things that got cut, you guys. All right, I'll just tell you so many good jokes. 30 seconds. All right, I'll just tell you the ending. So, well, okay. One thing I've never mentioned about this was there's a whole sequence where Coco Pomel comes to town. She goes to Golden Harvest. You know Golden Harvest? She goes to Golden Harvest house, and Golden Harvest has this like evil mad scientist moment where she's like, Coco Pomel's, I don't understand why you wanted me to make you a dress. She's got this green dress on for the wedding. When the greatest designer in Ponyville, Rarity, lives here, or in Equestria, Rarity lives here, and Golden Harvest goes completely villainous, and she's like, because Rarity embarrassed me and humiliated me in front of everyone when she criticized the color green, I had to dye my mane orange, which, right? In one episode she's green, and another one she's orange. So her backstory is that Rarity ruined her life. Now she's going to show up in this green dress created by the hottest new designer in Equestria, Coco Pomel, just to stick it in Rarity's face. And then at the end of it, I can't remember what it was, but Coco Pomel's like, undercut it somehow, and Golden Harvest just stands there and she's like, oh, I never really liked green anyways, can you make me a pink one? And Hasbro was like, so that got cut. We have 15 minutes, sorry you guys, I'm not gonna get to any of this stuff. It's all right.
Scroll through, I think it's strange happened.
I'll tell you one more thing at the ending. So, oh, there's one thing I want to show you, but I'm not gonna have time to do it. So this is my original Act 3, Octavia, and when you come back from the commercial, you're on a stage, and it's kind of surreal. Octavia stands alone on a stage, spotlit. All around her is blackness. She plays her cello somberly, soberly, beautifully. Polite applause from the unseen audience. It should feel kind of unsettling. As she picks her tempo up a bit, strange things start to appear behind her in the darkness. Animal eyes, a shadowy moon. The applause becomes the rattle of wind-blown branches. She notices but keeps playing, faster and more urgently. The stage fades away, and then Sombra appears, and he's got a fiddle. So then it's the devil went down to Georgia between Sombra and Octavia. They have a whole heated battle, and then all of a sudden you hear this thumping beat, and Octavia's like, whoa, what's that? And it wakes her up from this nightmare, and it's final scratches beat. So then that's what leads into the third act between the two of them. And I had the hardest time with the third act because I couldn't quite crack how to do it, and they didn't like it, and fair enough, they were right. So what I ended up doing with the third act eventually, where the sound booth goes out of control through town, is I stole my own scene from a show that Nick and I used to work on.
But not in a copyright infringing way.
No, of course not.
Conceptually, can't copyright.
I wrote an episode on Kik Batowski for Disney, where we worked together, where Kik is taking piano lessons. He's this little daredevil. He's taking piano lessons. He's so bored he wants to be outside. So the piano goes crazy running through town. It picks up characters along the way, exactly like the sound booth running through town. So I stole my own scene and put it in here, and I think it worked way better. I love how DHX did the third act of this episode. It's so good. Here's the Royal Guard and the Bad Ponies making fun of the princesses. So okay, that's it. That's it. Do we have a Q&A person to handle our Q&A? Somebody with a mic?
Line up in the center.
Line up in the center.
And speaking of bat ponies, I think I speak for everybody when I say that there is a criminal lack of bat ponies in the show.
So
right now.
true. I totally agree.
Need more bat.
If the folks doing the
Also wanna
Q&A
say thank you.
take a step
Let me
back,
take
we would like to
this.
get the
This is
kids
amazing. Look at all
up
this.
front so they can do their questions first.
Is your mic off?
Hello?
No.
Oh. We have 10 minutes, you guys. It's right here.
No kids? No kids?
The question has to end with a question mark.
I don't know about this thing.
Okay. If you were tasked to write an episode where Starlight Glimmer becomes an Alicorn princess, how would you go about it?
I feel like that you make people into Alicorn princesses. That's your thing. What'd you do?
I would quit. I would quit. I would actually.
Okay. Have you brainstormed many ponified names of real life locations? Like, for example, Saddle Arabia made it into the show. Like, have you
Yak
ever...
Yakistan.
I know I'm personally terrible at pun names. A lot of times I'll just write like Pony Saudi Arabia, and then someone later will be like, "That's not funny. What are you doing?" And then I'll love it.
Amy's pretty good at it. Clearly.
Yeah. Amy's clearly-
I mean,
Damn.
yeah, just trying to come up with, I mean, Jillian, I mean, for places are, you know, Lauren came up with a bunch originally, and then, yeah, sometimes you're just inspired and something hits you. I don't sit around and, I wouldn't just sit around and do, you know, just for fun or anything, but if I had to come up with a place, then yeah, you try and brainstorm that stuff.
I just had a real fun fire quick. Here's stuff like Galloping Ghost Islands, Napon, like Marquesa.
See, you're doing it, so that's good.
I love that the stories behind your stories are so emotional. There's so much like triumph or just deflation.
Mm-hmm.
Is this normal? Do you get this into every single story you write? Is it this much of your own personal?
Things we like,
into
right?
it?
Yeah, the ones, if you really dig the characters, which I really like this world and really like these characters, we get really invested because we think we know what's best for them, and then other people think they know what's best for them, and so you get fired up. Whenever Megan would send me notes, she'd say, "Don't flip your desk," and yeah, so she knows that my first response is like, "Ah,"
Right,
and then I have to rage for a bit, and I'm like, "Ah," and then you calm down a bit.
Yeah, or like pulling an all-nighter. Like there's freelance jobs I've had where I wouldn't do that. I would be like, well, it's done. There's my episode. I'm on to the next project.
That's
But-
good enough.
But if you love it, then you just have to do it. Like we can't not do it.
You want it to do as best you can, but I also love this thing that happens on this show in particular, like at the end of Slice of Life, where the mayor is giving this really heartfelt speech, and then all the fireworks start going off, and then Peter New is like, it takes love to ignite. And that gives me chills when that happens. It's so like emotional. I love that moment. And I know it's like, I'm awesome, I wrote it. That's not what I'm saying, you guys. I'm saying that like, I watch it, I'm like, that is so cool that this crazy episode that's not really all that emotional ends in such an emotional way. And that happens in the show a lot, where things will come together. Like Nick's, some of that stuff he was saying about the emotional elements of his episode that I really miss.
Yeah. Or like, I mean, the one thing I forgot to mention, like there's a joke at the end of Party Poop where it's like, wow, Pinkie Pie, this party came together really quick, even for you. And that was like clearly just me being like, this episode came together really quick.
Thank you, guys. Hi. So my question's for Nick. So for me, I feel like your strong suit with writing for the show is how the characters interact with each other. So I was curious with how late you came into the show, how did you go out learning what the characters were like so you could get those interactions down as well as you did?
Yeah, that's kind of a good question, because I mean, I think part of the problem with Party Poop was, I don't know if you guys see this like with freelancing, or you feel yourself doing it. A lot of times when you first come to a show, you find yourself maybe trying to introduce your own side wacky things that have nothing to do with the character interactions because you're not confident with it, you don't understand it. And you know, you'll just watch the pilot and you'll read a couple episodes and you go, I think I got it. And throughout the process of writing Party Poop, I just kept watching more episodes and more episodes, and I could feel it kind of getting into my brain and then going like, oh, Cupcake Leaf has to go. Right. That's not this show. The characters are funny on there.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you.
Hey, this is a question for all of the writers. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen a show called Home Movies, but they do this thing called retroscripting, where it's just like they just kind of make stuff up on the spot, or just like they have an outline. But have you guys ever given the voice actors like a chance to do improvisation, or just have them do that?
I don't think I've never put it in Pony. I've never put it in a script like improvised voila.
Yeah.
I mean, I know some shows do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Rick and Morty.
It's very hard for us because we're in LA and they're all in Vancouver, and we're not directors, we're not there, so
Yeah, we're not involved with the recording sessions.
Yeah.
They probably do improv stuff, but I'm actually often surprised when I watch an episode. I'm like, oh yeah, those are my lines. That's cool.
Yeah, actually, a lot of the times on scripted shows, sometimes you'll watch it and go, how did this happen? Things will get thrown out, whatever. Yeah, Pony, I'm always surprised. It stays very, very, very close, word for word.
It does. Then things happen like the Lyra and Bon Bon scene where Andrea and Ashley, I was not expecting them to read it the way they did. It wasn't improv, like they read my dialogue, but the way they read it, I was like, oh, that's funny. I wasn't expecting that.
I find jokes that we didn't.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you.
Hello? Worship upon me, for I am on the big screen. Okay. Quick question for all of you. Does family gain the content?
You gotta get on to the mic.
Get
Go
closer to the
closer
mic.
down. It's hard to hear you.
Try to get a disease from it. Like, get close.
Just make love to that mic. Get in it.
My own. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so quick question. Does fan-made content, be it fan fiction or animations, does that ever hinder in the writing process, like copyright-wise? Like you say, okay, how about that we have some of the main sixes switch bodies and go, oh, and again, from Hasbro saying, oh, no, you cannot do that. Someone already wrote a fanfic about that. Does that ever happen?
You mean is somebody monitoring the fan fiction to make sure we're not ripping it off?
Well,
That-
legally,
I'm-
we don't read it. That's what I was
we-
asking about with like the slice of life stuff, because like a lot of times it's a surprise to me. Like we don't really know what it is, and we have like a vague sense of it. And like from coming to cons, it's like, oh, that's a thing. But like for the most part, we don't, because we are not allowed to.
Yeah, we're not allowed to read
So
anything.
if we do rip off a fan fiction, it's completely coincidental.
Yeah.
It's that, hey, you have a good idea too.
Yeah, I mean, we're all playing in the same world, so it makes sense that there would be crossover.
It's also bound to happen. There's so much fan fiction and art and
Yeah.
videos, and there's just so much of it. It's just bound to happen, you know?
All right, thank you for your time.
Hello. Okay, so I've got a tiny question and then I got a regular question. So the tiny question is, whose idea was it to add the Lebowski ponies?
That was mine. I wanted every single background pony ever in the episode.
The second question is, when it comes to writing major villains, as far as like arc villains like Chrysalis or Nightmare Moon or things like that, what character would you say has been the biggest inspiration on characters like that? Like in other media?
I just write jokes out of it.
I mean, like for Chrysalis, I'm pretty sure Megan came up with that. She came up with Sombra. The big villains tend to be, you know, the finale kind of things, or you know, it's a lot of build up. She came up with Starlight, and that was an arc that she had to develop, you know, and lace in through that whole season. So I think it's often whoever the head writer or story editor is spearheading that. Not that somebody couldn't come in and be like, hey, I have a great villain, but I think in those particular instances, it was instigated by the head writer.
Okay, thank you.
My villains were like Flim and Flam and Discord, so I really like comedy. I like funny villains.
So good.
If I had to write like a Sombra serious, I don't know if I could do it. I like funny villains.
Thank you for writing those funny villains.
So what was Megan's notes for Sombra? He's bad and he likes crystals, I guess.
None of us had anything to do with that episode.
No idea.
Thank you.
Thanks.
This is just generally for you and the writing team, but Pinkie Pie has the same chaotic nature as Discord, but knows how to balance it with being considerate of others. So, how come she never played a role in Discord's redemption?
How come she never what? Played a role
in Discord's redemption.
They're telling us to wrap up.
I don't know. I think if the two of them got together, it might cause, you know, an explosion of some sort.
I want
She has the potential to bring out
needed,
that.
You needed a Fluttershy to calm, not another chaotic energy.
You need lawful good.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
I think that's right. It's the opposite nature of
Yeah.
Fluttershy that made them a good match.
Yeah. So he needed a calming influence.
Pinkie and
not a-
Fluttershy could both have done it.
Yeah.
I guess they're kicking us out, huh?
Yeah, they're telling us to wrap
Is this
up.
something
How many more can we
saying
do?
wrap up and blinking? Does that mean we have to literally?
Can we do like 20 more questions and that's it?
People who have questions. This is so fun. Who's in charge here?
Who's in charge? Couch, how many more can we do?
I don't know.
20?
500. Go.
Somebody's gonna have to throw us out. We're just gonna keep
Rapid fire.
They're gonna cut our mics.
Go fast.
Go fast. Lightning round.
My question is for all three of you. I made a video on YouTube called My Little Pony Writers based on a parody of Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the
Yeah.
Fire.
That was amazing. You guys should all watch it. It was funny.
Woo!
Very nice job.
Yes. And how did you react?
I thought it was really good.
It was awesome.
I mean, that took a lot of effort.
Yeah.
That's a lot of hard timing and rhyming and stuff. So
Yeah.
very nicely done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Do you normally have to pitch your own episodes like Nick sounded like you did, or do you get assigned these basic plots and they say, here, go make a full episode?
We could talk about this for like an hour, so we'll try to keep it short. It used to be all open-ended. We would come in, pitch things we loved and were excited about, and then you would do that one. And over time, it's become much more and more like, here's your episode, and sometimes you don't click with it, and it's really hard to write. Sometimes you do.
But it's interesting because it's actually full circle. When the show started, it was here's your episode. I would get an email like, you're doing the one with Nightmare Nights. It's like, okay, it wasn't my idea, but okay. So then it switched to we pitch our own, and then it switched back.
Yeah, we'd have these big story summits and just throw out ideas. But then, for instance, with Coloratura, Megan said, hey, you want to write this? And I said, yeah. And so, yeah, it can work both ways.
Thank you.
Hi, I was wondering if during the writing process you guys ever switched out characters, like you didn't like the way certain characters had chemistry and you wanted to change like Fluttershy for Applejack or something like that?
I definitely did on Cutie Map, and you guys are all gonna boo, but I don't care because it worked. That was a really difficult couple of episodes, but Spike was there, and Spike made no sense because he didn't have a cutie mark, so he couldn't be brainwashed, and he broke the episode. Like having Spike there was like, it broke the episode. So I cut him out. No booing? Okay. Oh yeah. We hate Spike, right? I had Spike broing down with Big Mac back in Ponyville because then Fluttershy could be the one who's the heroic moment. So, yeah, that was one where Spike was actually the one who was the hero originally, and I was like, this is not working, and it's too many characters, so I swapped them for Fluttershy.
Spike's fault.
Yeah.
Spike the hero, right?
2 more, 3 more.
All right.
2 yes/no questions. Will Cupcake Leaf return into Easter egg?
I'm sorry?
Will Cupcake Leaf return into Easter egg?
I can't hear the words before Easter egg.
Will Cupcake Leaf return
Will
into
Cupcake
Easter
Leaf
egg?
be an Easter egg? Cupcake Leaf is in Slice of Life if you look really closely.
Keep your eyes peeled.
And will Sombra return?
I don't know.
We can talk about anything except future episodes.
We can't talk about future stuff, and 2 of us aren't on the show. So yes.
We can't help you.
I got a question for M.A. Larson from all the way back to season 2. I was wondering if there was any influence on how Princess Luna was characterized, the big bombastic princess who is also adorable and can make an instant connection with children. It kept reminding me of Discworld's death, so I wonder if that was an influence.
It reminded you of what?
Discworld's death.
Discworld.
Discworld.
It's
Discworld. Oh, I don't even know what that is.
Okay,
So no.
It's a British fantasy series of novel, and Death is a character. And
Yes, yeah, I've heard of. I don't know it. So no, but sorry, no.
There wasn't any outside influence on how to build a character because she didn't have much of a character before that.
Luna?
Yeah.
What was the influence on the character?
Yeah.
So Lauren's original version of her was there's a TV show called Parks and Recreation, and there's a character in there played by Aubrey Plaza. I don't know what the character's name is. And we wrote an entire draft of the script where Luna was that. She was just this kind of like sarcastic, sullen teenager. And this was a case where Hasbro's notes were really good. Hasbro's like, that's not fun enough. And then we're like, well, it makes sense. If she's been gone for 500 years, her mindset is still 500 years ago. So she's very formal. And, you know, kiss my hoof, like she's that kind of person. It made way more sense. It was way funnier. So it wasn't really based particularly on anyone. It was just, what would she be like if she hasn't been here in 500 years?
Well, thank you.
So this is the last one next?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, thank you. Sorry, I don't know Discworld. This is the last question, you guys, sorry.
Hi. This is, first I just want to say, Nick, I'm the only Wallflower cosplayer I've ever seen today.
The only what cosplayer?
Wallflower.
Wallflower?
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing!
Also, I have a memory stone for you.
That's also amazing! I'll find you after this, It looks like soap. Can I wash myself with it?
But my question is for Nick, and it's, where do you think that like human Starlight and like human Sunset are in the human world? Like, do you think they'll be at Everton? Like,
I can talk about anything except future episodes. I'm sorry.
Well, like in your mind, like where do you think?
In my mind?
If you like were
Well,
able.
but my mind is the future episodes.
So, you know, hintity hint hint.
Yeah, so you will find out.
But those are questions that I'm fascinated by as well. Let's just say that.
Aha.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
It's so fun.